Okay, so on this one, we're wanting to solve this equation. So let me bring it down here. So we have 20, it's a little big here. So 20x to the third minus 23x squared plus 6x equals 0. Okay, so first off, let's just factor this left side. How do we factor this left side? Well, you take out, so step one, take out the GCF. In other words, what do they have in common? I don't think there's any number, like they're not all divisible by 2, right? Because the 23 in the middle, he's not even, he's not divisible by 2. So there's no number we can take out in common, but there is an x. So take out an x in common. What does that leave on the inside? Well, this will be 20x squared. This will be 23x, right? Because x1 will add to go back to x2, and plus 6, because that'll go back to 6x. Okay, so take out what's in common, step one. Now, what do we do from here? Now, for this part, we've got to do multiply, add, multiplies. In other words, right up here. So what multiplies to be 20x squared, what adds to be minus 23x, and what multiplies to be 6. We leave this x in the front. That just stays right there. And we do the 2 parentheses, keep the equals 0. So now we're saying, okay, what multiplies to be 20? Well, that could be 5x and 4x. It could be 10 times 2, but you usually try the numbers closer together. 5 and 4 are closer together than 10 and 2, so it's probably 5 and 4. Okay, now what goes at the back? Well, there's two ways we could do the back. We could do, let's see, we could do, to multiply to be 6, I mean. We could do 3 times 2, or it could be the other order, right? Instead of 3 times 2, it could be the 2 here and the 3 there. How do we know which order is correct? And also it could be 6 times 1, but it's probably 3 times 2. It's probably that. How do we know which order is right? Well, see how 4 and 2 are both divisible by 2. So that's not right. You never have 2 numbers in the same parenthesis with anything in common. You can't have that. You can never have 2 numbers in the same parenthesis that have anything in common. Why not? Because we took out what's in common on the first step, right? We looked and we said 20, 23, and 6. There's nothing in common. So there can't be something in common later. In other words, I could take 2 out of these guys, right? That'd be 4 and 2. So that can't be. You can't have a common thing showing up later when you took out whatever was in common on step number 1, or there was no number in common. So there can't be something in common later. So we know this is not the right option because the 4 and the 2 have a 2 in common, and you can't have that. You can't have anything in common because you take all the commonness out on step 1. So it must be this way. See how 5 and 2 have nothing in common, and 4 and 3. There's no number that goes into 5 and 2. There's no number that goes into 4 and 3. They have nothing in common. So it's got to be that way. Okay. So now, though, we don't know which, plus, minus, what is it? So you have to check the signs. How do you check? So you just check. Remember, the first goes to both. That'd be 20x squared, 15x, and boom, boom, 8x and 6. First to both, second to both. Okay, the 20x squared, 20x squared, yeah. 6, yeah. But how about the middle? Well, the 2 in the middle, what signs do they need to make the middle here? Remember, the sign in the middle always goes on the bigger, right? Sign, let's scroll that up. Sign in the middle always goes to the bigger number. The sign in the middle always goes to the bigger number. So that's that now, right? So the sign here in the middle, the minus, goes to the bigger. 15 is bigger than 8. goes to the bigger middle number. Yeah, I should say it that way. It goes to the bigger middle number. There's two numbers in the middle, right? 15 and 8. The bigger one is the 15. The sign in the middle goes to the bigger middle number. Okay, well, then what's the sign of the other one? Whatever it takes to make minus 23, that's going to be minus. They're actually both minus. Minus 15 and minus 8 adds up to be minus 23. And then the signs crisscross, because let me drop the color here. So you can see it clearly. So this then crisscross the signs back to the parentheses. So this minus goes here, and this minus goes there. Like that, crisscross the signs back to the parentheses. Now, in this case, it doesn't matter. They're just both negative. I mean, like, who cares? But if this first one was positive, for example, then the positive would end up right there. You know, if they were different, it would matter. But they're just both negative, so who cares? So anyway, so let's keep going. So we're not done yet. So we're almost done. X, 5x minus 2, 4x minus 3, oops, equals 0. Now, why aren't we done? Well, it's because we have this equal 0. So when you have an equal 0, you've got another step. You've got a step 3. Step 3. Now set each part equal to 0 and solve. Each part equal to 0 and solve. So I take this x alone. Let me keep blue here. Keep the x alone equal to 0, that part, and then this part. 5x minus 2 equals 0, and then this part. A little squiggly there. Each part equals 0 and solve. So this part's done. And then this part, you got to add 2 to both sides. Boom. 5x is 2, divide by 5. 2/5. This part, add 3 to both sides. Boom. 4x equals 3, divided by 4. Boom. So our answers are 0, 2/5, and 3/4. There's 3 answers. They want you to separate them with commas. And like that, in any order, you can put them in any order you want, I think. Maybe they said smallest. I don't know what they say. Yeah, they didn't say, so any order is fine. Like that. Now, I want to point out, why could we go from 1 equals 0 to 3 equals 0s? Well, that's because, think about with me logically. If I said to you, hey, I'm multiplying 3 numbers in my head, and the answer is coming out 0. How can I times 3 numbers together and get an answer of 0? Well, the first one could be 0, because 0 times whatever the other 2 are would be 0, or the middle one could be 0, or the last one. If any one of them is 0, the whole thing is going to multiply to be 0, right? So that's what we're saying. These 3 things are multiplying to equal 0. That's what the equation is saying. Therefore, the first one could be 0, or the second one could be 0, or the third one could be 0. If any one of them is 0, they're going to multiply to be 0. And then this one's already done being solved, and we solve that one and solve that one. So that's how we get our 3 answers for x. So remember, when you have the equals 0, you have to do this step 3, where we set each part equal to 0 and solve. We're not done at the parentheses. We have more work to do. So there we go.